Have you ever sat there, staring at your phone, hoping he'll finally text you back, wondering how someone who once called you their world can go completely silent? You're not alone. But here's the truth. No one wants to admit men don't come back because you chase. They come back when something inside them shifts. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to trigger that shift. This isn't about games. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding the way male psychology actually works and using that insight to flip the script. Imagine this. He suddenly feels your absence more than ever. He starts checking your socials. He begins replaying old memories. And before he even realizes it, he's the one reaching out. This video reveals one simple science-backed trick that sparks that exact response. No begging, no chasing, no second guessing. This is something you can do starting today. And the beauty of it? It puts the focus back on you, your power, your energy, your self-worth. Because when you shift the energy, he feels it. And when he feels it, he can't ignore it. So stay with me, because in the next few minutes, we're not just talking about how to get him back. We're talking about how to get you back. The version of you that's irresistible, magnetic, and in full control. Let's get into it. So let's talk about what actually happens in his mind after a breakup. Because understanding why someone starts to miss you is the first step in making it happen. Right after a breakup, most men feel a strange sense of control. They believe they've made the right decision. They feel free, independent, maybe even a little relieved. That's the first emotional wave, and it's dangerous to interrupt it. That's why reaching out, chasing, or trying to fix things too soon almost always backfires. You become associated with pressure, discomfort, and emotional conflict. But here's the thing, that initial wave, it fades, always. And what comes next is where your power lies. As time goes on, and especially if you go quiet, his mind starts to wander. He notices your absence, not just physically, but energetically. The daily texts, the voice notes, the comfort of knowing you were there, gone. Now there's a vacuum. And the brain hates a vacuum. This is when his mind starts to fill in the blanks with idealized memories. He forgets the small arguments. He forgets the tension. What he remembers is your laugh, your smell, the little things you did that made him feel safe, important, wanted. That's nostalgia, and it's extremely powerful. It rewrites history in your favor. Here's the psychological catch. Men don't miss the woman who's still emotionally available. They miss the one who's suddenly out of reach. The mystery of your silence, the unknown of how you're doing, if you've moved on, it all triggers a sense of loss. And loss, biologically, feels like pain. His ego starts to ache. His certainty starts to crack. And suddenly he's thinking about you in ways he hasn't before. He starts questioning his decision, wondering if he made a mistake. That's regret creeping in, and when it does, you're no longer chasing. He is, and that's exactly where you want to be. Now that you understand the psychology behind why men begin to feel regret and longing, let's talk about what kills that process. Because even if he's on the verge of missing you, one wrong move can pull him right back into emotional detachment. The biggest mistake women make after a breakup is trying to prove their worth. That can look like sending long messages explaining your side, constantly checking in to stay friends, posting on social media just to make him jealous, or worse, begging. All of these actions come from a place of fear, not confidence. And fear is the least attractive energy you can show. Here's what happens in his mind when you reach out too soon. Or too often, he doesn't feel loss. He doesn't feel curiosity. He doesn't even have space to wonder what you're doing or how you're feeling, because you're still there, emotionally accessible. He doesn't have to chase. He doesn't even have to process the breakup fully, because your presence gives him emotional closure without him doing any work. Another common mistake is using social media as a tool for reaction. Posting overly sexy photos, cryptic quotes, or trying to show him how fine you are. Trust me, he sees right through it, and instead of sparking regret, it confirms that you're still emotionally entangled. It's not strength, it's strategy disguised as desperation, and men can feel that energetically. Then there's the friend zone trap. Some women accept the offer to stay friends just to stay close. But what you're doing is training him to have the benefits of your emotional support without the responsibility of a relationship. And once he gets comfortable in that dynamic, it's nearly impossible to shift the power back in your direction. Let's be real, men respect what they can't easily access. And every time you make yourself available in the hopes that he'll realize something, you're actually delaying that realization. Regret doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in silence, in distance, in uncertainty. And let's not forget the mental mistakes. Obsessing over his every move, stalking his stories, analyzing his likes. That energy keeps you stuck. And even though he may not see it, it affects how you show up in the world, that lack of detachment. It leaks through everything, your tone, your energy, your presence, and it pushes him further away. So if you've done any of these things, stop, today, right now. Because the moment you stop feeding his comfort is the moment he starts to feel the gap. And when he feels the gap, that's when he starts to wonder. That's when the shift begins. That's when you become the one that got away. Let's get into what everyone always asks about after a breakup. What should I text him? Now first, let's make one thing clear. If you've been chasing over texting or constantly reaching out, this step won't work unless you've first pulled back. The power of this message only kicks in when there's been enough space for him to feel your absence. If you skip that, it just sounds like another excuse to talk. But once he's felt the silence, once the emotional reset has begun, a single well-crafted message can break the ice and spark his curiosity. Not to restart old conversations, not to beg, but to plant a seed. And here's the key. Your message should not be emotional. It shouldn't be dramatic or ask for anything. The goal here is not to get a reply. It's to shift the energy and create an emotional question mark in his mind. That's what draws him back in. Here's a version of what that might look like. Hey, this is random, but I just came across something that totally reminded me of you. Hope you're good. That's it. Now let's break down why this works, because it sounds so simple, but it's layered. First, the phrase, "this is random," signals that you're not overly emotional or trying to start a deep conversation. You're casual, detached, and neutral. That's disarming. Second, "reminded me of you," subtly reintroduces the connection, but without expectation. It pulls on nostalgia and personal association, which stirs emotional memory. Third, "hope you're good," closes it off politely, signaling emotional maturity and confidence. You're not fishing for a reply, you're letting him know you're grounded. Now this message does one very important thing. It flips the emotional dynamic. Instead of you chasing validation, you've now become the mystery. Why are you thinking of him? Are you still interested? Do you still care? Has something changed? All of those questions begin to swirl, and men are naturally drawn to close emotional loops. When they can't fully read your intention, they start paying attention. Even if he doesn't. So now let's talk about something most people completely overlook: your energy. Because even without saying a word, without sending a text, without posting anything, you are still communicating with him. And that communication comes through your energy. Energy is real. People can feel it, sense it, even from a distance. And after a breakup, the most magnetic thing you can do is stop chasing, stop reacting, and start glowing. Not for him, but for you. That's where the magic starts to happen. When you're caught up in sadness, confusion, or desperation, you emit an energy of lack. It's heavy, it's needy, and whether or not he consciously recognizes it, it repels. But when you begin to focus on yourself, when you pour your time and energy back into your own life, something incredible shifts. You become light again, expansive, confident, and that energy, it draws people in, including him. This doesn't mean pretending to be okay. It means actually becoming okay. You do that by shifting your focus from what you've lost to what you're becoming. Get back into your routines. Say yes to new things. Reconnect with your passions, your purpose, your people. Start becoming the woman he fell for. And then go even further. Become the version of you he never even got the chance to know. When he feels that shift, it triggers something deep. He may not understand it, but he will feel it. Suddenly the emotional hold he thought he had starts to slip. The version of you that was once available is evolving. She's not reaching out. She's not begging. She's moving on, and nothing builds more pressure in a man's mind than realizing the woman he took for granted is becoming out of reach, on her own terms. Think of it like this. You're not just creating distance, you're building intrigue. And intrigue is one of the most powerful forces of attraction. The less he knows about what's going on with you, the more his mind fills in the blanks. And if your energy is strong, grounded, and magnetic, he will feel the pull, even without direct contact. It's not about being cold or playing games. It's about choosing yourself. That decision sends out a frequency. And those who are meant for you, especially someone who once had a deep emotional bond with you, will feel it shift. When your energy rises, it either pulls him up to meet you, or it leaves him behind. And if there's still a connection, if he still cares, if there's even a spark left, he will come closer. The silent power of not needing him, while still holding space for the possibility of reconnection, is magnetic. That's how you attract, without chasing, without contact, without losing yourself. Here it is, the moment you've been waiting for, the one simple trick that changes everything. It's not a magic word, it's not a secret message, and it's not some manipulative move. It's a shift in how you exist in his world, or more specifically, how you remove yourself from it in a way that leaves a space he has to notice. Ready? Here's the trick. Disappear from his emotional landscape completely, without warning, without closure, without explanation. Not in a petty or passive-aggressive way. In a calm, powerful, grounded way that silently says, "You lost access to me." Most people stay emotionally tied after a breakup. Checking stories, liking posts, responding to texts, staying friends, or leaving doors cracked open just in case. But when you fully remove your presence, digitally, emotionally, energetically, it creates a void, and the brain hates a void, especially a male brain that's used to knowing where he stands with you. What makes this work is the unpredictability. The fact that you're no longer following the script he expected. You're not angry, you're not begging, you're not posting thirst traps, or trying to prove anything. You're just gone. And that silence becomes louder than any words you could have spoken. This trick works because it disrupts his emotional comfort. He might have thought he could come back at any time, that you'd always be there, that he had the upper hand, but now, he's faced with uncertainty, and that uncertainty triggers reflection, regret, curiosity, even panic. You're not blocking him to get attention. You're not ghosting him to hurt him. You're removing your presence because you know your worth. And in that absence, he's left with only two options. He either steps forward, or he loses you for good. That pressure is what makes the difference. And here's where it gets deeper. While you're gone from his world, you're rebuilding yours. You're not sitting around waiting for him to notice. You're healing. You're elevating. You're reclaiming parts of yourself that maybe got lost in the relationship. That quiet transformation, he feels it, even if he can't explain it. He knows something's changed. He might test the waters, like a random hey, or thinking about you. That's not your cue to drop everything and respond. That's your cue to stay centered. Because if he truly wants back in, he'll do more than test. He'll pursue. He'll commit. He'll earn his place again. This trick works not because you're playing hard to get, but because you genuinely detach. Not from love, not from the hope that he may return, but from the need to be chosen. And once that shift happens inside you, everything around you begins to change. This is how you make him come back, not through force, but through absence. Not by showing up louder, but by pulling back with quiet power. If there's one thing that can completely undo all the progress you've made, all the silence, the growth, the shift in your energy, it's this breaking your own boundary just to feel something. And if you want him back, truly back, in a way that's healthy, committed, and real, you have to stop doing this one thing. Stop making emotional decisions based on temporary feelings. Stop reaching out when you're feeling weak, lonely, or nostalgic. Because that one late night text, that one story reply, that one moment of just checking in, it doesn't just chip away at your power. It sends a very clear message. You still need him to feel okay. And here's the harsh truth. The second he senses that, the dynamic shifts right back into his favor. He no longer has to chase. He no longer has to wonder. He knows that with just a little effort, he can have your attention again, without having to change, without earning it, without doing any of the work you thought he was starting to do. You need to stop letting your emotions control the strategy. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's painful. Yes, there are moments you'll feel like picking up your phone just to hear his voice, or check if he's online. But that short-term relief, it costs you long-term results. And deep down, you know it. You also have to stop trying to prove your worth to him. If he didn't see it when he had access to you, showing him now through effort, through desperation, through over-communication, it won't work. Attraction doesn't grow from logic. It grows from emotion. And that emotion is only triggered when there's space for him to feel the loss. Another thing you must stop doing, replaying the relationship on a loop, analyzing every word he said, obsessing over who he's talking to, wondering what you could have done differently. This emotional overthinking keeps you stuck in the past, and you cannot move forward while you're emotionally living in rewind. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all figured out, but you do need to stop giving your power away one small decision at a time. If you want him back, not just back, but in love, present, and committed, you have to show that you're no longer the same woman he walked away from. And that starts with self-control, discipline, emotional boundaries, the strength to sit in discomfort without trying to fix it with contact. Because when you stop doing what weakens your value, you create space for him to feel the consequences of letting you go. And that's when real change begins. Now that you understand the psychology, the emotional triggers, and the mistakes to avoid, it's time to put all of this into action. Because knowledge without movement changes nothing. The final strategy is simple, but not easy. It's about full energetic detachment, while stepping into your higher self and staying there consistently. The trick isn't just to disappear, it's to evolve while you're gone. So here's your action plan. First, go silent. Not as a punishment, not as a game, but as a declaration of self-worth. If he reaches out with low-effort messages, "Hey, I miss you. Just thinking about you," do not respond immediately. He needs to feel what it's like to not have instant access to you anymore. Let him sit in that discomfort. If he's serious, he'll show up in a real way, consistently, with clarity. Second, audit your energy. What are you focusing on daily? If you're still mentally chasing him, even in silence, you're still giving away your power. It's time to redirect your focus. Get into your body, move, create, rebuild your life brick by brick. It doesn't have to look perfect. It just has to be yours again. Third, upgrade your environment. That means the people you talk to, the content you consume, and the conversations you entertain. Stop surrounding yourself with energy that keeps you in victim mode. You're not broken. You're not waiting. You're becoming. Fourth, choose emotional discipline. This means not checking his social media, not asking mutual friends what he's doing, not obsessing over signs or signals. If he wants you back, he'll make it known, clearly, directly, and with effort. Your job isn't to analyze breadcrumbs. Your job is to walk like someone who knows she's worth the whole damn loaf. Finally, visualize your end result, not from a place of hoping, but from knowing. Whether he comes back or not, you win. Because you're building a version of yourself that no longer tolerates half-love, confusion, or inconsistency. And ironically, that's exactly the version of you that pulls him back in, not because you needed him, but because you stopped needing him. That shift, it's magnetic, it's powerful, and it's the final piece of the puzzle. You're no longer chasing, you're attracting, you're no longer proving, you're embodying, you're no longer reacting, you're choosing. So from this point forward, your only job is to stay in your power, silently, steadily, without apology. Let him come back to a woman he no longer recognizes, not because she changed for him, but because she chose herself. That's how you win. That's how you shift everything. And that is how you make him come back. Let's take a breath and bring it all together, because you've just unlocked something that most people never figure out. You now understand the emotional and psychological blueprint that makes a man not only miss you, but realize what he lost. And more importantly, who you really are. You learn that making him come back has nothing to do with chasing, convincing, or proving anything. It starts with silence, not as punishment, but as power. Then we explored the psychology of regret and how curiosity and distance can do more for your value than words ever could. You also learned the biggest mistakes women make after a breakup: reaching out too soon, staying emotionally available, and reacting from pain instead of peace. You now know what to stop doing and why that changes everything. We talked about the one trick that works, disappearing from his emotional field in a way that's calm, controlled, and authentic. Not to manipulate, but to create space for real reflection and desire. And then we dove into how to create magnetic energy without even contacting him, by rebuilding yourself from the inside out. Your final strategy is about consistency, about not just disappearing, but evolving in silence. That's what draws him back, not the noise. And even more powerful, you're no longer doing this for him, you're doing it for you. So here's your next step. Watch this video again if you need to. Take notes, reflect, then apply. Start today, not tomorrow. And if you feel tempted to break your silence, come back to this moment. Remember who you're becoming. And remember this, if he comes back, great. But if you come back to yourself, you've already won. If this video helped you, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below with one commitment you're making to yourself this week. You never know who you'll inspire. Thank you for watching. Now go take your power back. Quietly, confidently, and completely.